What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Come on. Oh, yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Alrighty, so we're not going to go over what happened in the American Revolution with a lot of detail, but ultimately, obviously, the colonists win. Let's talk about 4 reasons why, and then you should be able to answer the question on page 7. Number one, colonists were defending their homeland. Their desire to win overrode the Great Britain's desire to win. Because again, they were defending their homeland. The second reason is that Great Britain was overconfident, and most people thought Great Britain would win. They were the number one army in the world, going against a few farmers and disorganized people. And because they were overconfident, Great Britain made a lot of mistakes. Also, this war was very long. It started in 1776 and doesn't end until 1781 ish. Hey Siri, how long does the American Revolution last? The Long War wore down the British. So the war starts around late 1775, early into 1776, and doesn't end until 1783, almost 10 years. And so that costs quite a bit of money. And keep in mind, they're coming off of the French and Indian War where they spent a lot of money. In addition to that, France began to send troops to America. So they felt sorry for us, but their real reason was because they had a rivalry with Great Britain. Remember, the French and Indian War was really France against Great Britain. And so France had just lost that war. So they had some bitterness from that, as well as other skirmishes over the years. And so they sent in troops in 1778, which helped we Americans win that war. So these are 4 reasons why the colonists won. So you should be able to answer that question. Give me 2 of these on page 7. All righty. So boom, we are now a new nation recognized by all other nations. So how do we govern ourselves? Well, we had already been through a constitutional monarchy and even an absolute monarchy, and we were not interested in that type of government. So, what comes out of the Continental Congress was what is called the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation are a precursor to our Constitution. They don't work, they fall apart, and we'll talk about why a little bit. But what the Articles of Confederation confirm is that we will have what is called a republic. A republic simply means that we don't have a king or queen and no one person is running things. We're all running it. Meaning every year or every 3 or 4 years, we vote in a president, we vote in representatives, and those representatives represent what we want. So if we want gay marriage, they vote for that. If we want abortion, they vote for that. If we want higher taxes, they vote for that, so on and so forth. And if they do opposite of what we want, we vote them out. So that's what our Articles of Confederation brought in. The problem was that the Articles of Confederation made the national government very, very weak. There was no executive or judicial branch. So this at this point, all we have is Congress. We don't have a president. We don't have judges or law and order. We also only have one Congress, and Congress could not even declare war or enter into treaties or make money. They also could not regulate trade or collect taxes. So, if without money, they were very, very weak. And so ultimately, this falls apart and it leads to a new constitution similar to what we have now. This new constitution was again based on Enlightenment ideas from John Locke, Montesquieu, and Rousseau, which we'll talk about in a second. The major part of our new constitution, though, is that it recognized and gave us a federal government and a state government and gave each one of them powers, because we were wary of putting all power into one person or one group. Instead, we're going to divide power between both the federal government or national government and state and local governments. All right, so some major ideas that come out of the American Revolution, and these were pretty much new to the world, was again that republic. But with the republic, we have an elected president. So every 4 years, we elect this president and we give him certain powers. His main job is to execute the laws. The second thing was checks and balances. Again, we don't want one person to have all the power, so we're going to divide that power between federal and state governments, but also we're going to divide power between executive, legislative, and judicial. So executive means the president, who executes the laws; legislative, which is Congress, which creates the laws; and judicial, which is judges, lawyers, law. They interpret the laws and determine if that is something you can legally do or not. Third to the last is the Bill of Rights. Now, this was 10 amendments, and even you're probably like, amendments? We're just creating the Constitution. I don't know. I'm not even sure why we have amendments, because this was something that was in the original Constitution. But we have these 10 amendments that protect the basic rights of people. Remember, many of these colonists are coming out of Great Britain and understanding that under an absolute or constitutional monarchy, you have no say so in the government and they can do whatever they want. They wanted to protect that. Last but not least, you have the First Amendment, freedom of speech and freedom of press, meaning I can talk about the president. I can talk about rich people in the press, meaning newspapers, YouTube nowadays, whatever, without being killed or my livelihood being affected. Now, these ideas come from, again, many Enlightenment thinkers. So the idea of a republic from Rousseau, the idea of checks and balances from Montesquieu, the idea of a Bill of Rights from John Locke, and lastly, the idea of a First Amendment from Voltaire. So these should be the answers to the questions on page 8 at the bottom. All righty. I've hinted at this over and over again, but you should have already answered this question. Give me 2 reasons the colonists won on page 7. Now, you should be finished with your notes. If you are, make sure your name and period is on your paper. Also, make sure you answered all of those critical thinking questions, because those are going to be mainly what I check for. You can place your notes in the black bin and move on to 3B. Bye.